This program was first broadcast on Canterbury's access media station, Plains FM, and was made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Today I am talking to my good friend and amazing colleague Erica Viedma, who is well trained in mindfulness and in yoga. Together we've been working with some parents of youth and really enjoying our time in that space, and we want to talk about what we're noticing about parents and how cool you all are. Thanks for joining us for Being Real Parents with me, Anna, and my colleague and buddy
Kate. We work in the parenting space.
And it's here where we'll talk about our worlds as parents, the good, the not so good, and the hilarious, and mix this with what we know about behaviour and psychology. Erica!
Hi, Anna. It's so nice to talk to you today.
So nice to talk to you too. Thanks for thanks for your time. I really want to talk about our experience recently. We've been working out in the Rolleston community with the Selwyn Youth Hub and looking at ways we can support parents of youth. We devised a program together called Cupcakes and Yoga.
Yes, I remember that when you first came to me and said, I'm thinking about this thing. And I love that you were like, I just want to do something different. That's what you were saying, wasn't it? I want to do something different for parents.
Yeah, I wanted to move away from the parenting education parenting program model and offer something that parents could do and copy and paste into their own ordinary lives, because we're so busy, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think a big part of that was to actually structure the classes, the sessions together, where we talked about elements and kind of the science behind these parenting ideas, but then we actually practiced it, didn't we? We actually got in there and actually got into our bodies, got on the yoga mat, did a bit of physical movement, a little bit of meditation, and so that it was it was really kind of theory and practice.
Yes, which I'm kind of all about. The reason I called it Cupcakes and Yoga was because that's what I say when I'm talking to parents about balance. Cupcakes and yoga, and I think that's what I wanted to iterate with them, because there's lots of guilt around parenting and what we should be doing. And one of the guilts that we seem to love to take hold of, Velcro, is around our own self-care.
So is that, in your mind, Anna, were you thinking that cupcakes was the self-care part and yoga was that I must do that because that's the discipline part of me? Is that what you're kind of thinking when you think balance with cupcakes and yoga? Or is it like cupcakes is a treat?
Yeah, I think what I think about is that it feels unhealthy when we talk about eating cupcakes on the couch. Yeah. But actually we can eat cupcakes on the couch and we can go out with our friends and we can parent well and we can get in some physical activity and we can scroll mindlessly on Instagram. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think that was, to me, a big successful part of what we did was that I think it allowed parents and ourselves to come in with this idea that we are human beings, that we're not trying to be this perfect kind of Insta-worthy parent all the time. Which can be, because it's really tricky, isn't it? Because I do see things on Instagram and on social media where like, I wish I was like that. I wish I could have my, always look so beautiful, even when I'm gardening and I can seem to get my kids to sleep and always have it together. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, while we hold guilt as parents, because that's a natural part of parenting anyway, because guilt is this emotion that actually feels pretty yuck, but what's behind it is wanting to do better, wanting to get things right, wanting to, be the best that we can. And so that's okay. And sometimes we just need to go, do you know what? Not today. And that's all right.
Yeah, and giving ourselves permission was really fantastic. I feel that as we went through the weeks together with those parents, that we all gave each other permission that we're going to try our best. We are going to really think and be considerate about our parenting, be thoughtful, be proactive, be present. But we're also just going to like exhale and go, okay, now I'm just going to take a moment for myself and know that the world isn't going to collapse.
Yeah. And
just because I sit on the couch and eat a cupcake.
And we're going to learn and do this stuff together.
Yes, I think the communal aspect, there's something very special for me around mindfulness groups, yoga groups, parenting groups, anything where you come together with the purpose of looking after each other's really, this kind of our whole well-being. There's something very precious. I feel like there's something that we go, oh, that's right. I can't do this alone. Okay. I actually can't parent alone. I can't do it.
You're listening to Being Real Parents with Kate and Anna on Plains FM 96.9.
So we came to this together as parents, and we were all parents of young people, hey?
Yeah, so I have 3 kiddies myself at the moment. So my youngest is 11 and my oldest is 18.
And I have 19 down to 9. So we were kind of in the space as well, which is cool actually, because it gave us a lot of insight, didn't it? And I always see these, anything I do with parents, it's reciprocal. I learn from them too. I think that's
100%
the selfish
absolutely.
reason I do this work. Yes, and so we decided that we're going to do cupcakes. We actually did eat cupcakes, didn't we?
It was just such a beautiful act of manaakitanga that parents could arrive, and boom, there were some beautiful cupcakes in the space already.
And a cup of tea. And then we sat together, and in the first session, what we did was I just wanted to give a kind of overview of what wellbeing is and some ways to look after that. Mm-hmm. And so I did about a 20-minute talk, and then you took over and you did mindfulness and yoga, and that became our routine.
Yeah, a little framework. Yeah.
And that was really interesting, wasn't it? So we talked about wellbeing and what that is, and I always like the definition of feeling good and functioning well. And we talked about the 5 ways to wellbeing, which we can always go into. I think I've done actually podcasts around that. I'm sure I have, as well as te whare tapawha. And I always use those 2 models because I use them professionally and personally, because they're simple, they make sense to me. There's a kind of like, why am I off? What's out of balance here about them? And that means that I can really reflect on what needs to change around me in order that I feel good again.
Yeah, and it actually really marries up with the idea that mindfulness is about being present in this moment and purposefully being present. So we can actually use those frameworks like Te Whare Tapawha and 5 Ways to Wellbeing as a little moment of going, just pausing and noticing in these different areas, how am I? And however I am as a parent is impacting then on the wellbeing of our tamariki as well. And so I really loved, for example, looking through the Te Whare Tapawha model and really just noticing for ourselves personally which pillars of our well-being are where are we? And especially I think we noticed that that it's the wairua part of it, that quite a few parents noticed that they were really missing their own sense of how they were in themselves, their own sense of kind of the spirit of, being able to get up every day and feel like they had purpose and feel, that they were connected to the world and to nature. Is that what you noticed as well, Anna, that there was a little bit of oh, that's right. I forgot to go out and look at the stars or just go for a walk in nature,
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we talked about some ways that we can get that into our day, because if we switch that across to, a little piece of wairua would be taking notice and being present. And actually what we know about that is that it's the biggest bang for our wellbeing buck. So it's really important in terms of us being able to nurture and boost our wellbeing.
And something that I noticed as well, Anna, is that both for myself and for the parents there, unless you schedule it,
yeah,
it's very hard to do. And that sounds so weird, to schedule a moment of wairua, a moment of kind of like, awe, or a moment of, but even just scheduling the parenting class, going to Cupcakes and Yoga, I always came back from those feeling inspired
Same.
and good in myself,
Yeah,
which I
same.
think is a really good thing. So I think, carving some time aside, eh?
Yeah, that's right. And we must say that, we're reflecting on Cupcakes and Yoga because we learned so much as a team in that. And that it's not going away. We are going back to Rolleston, and you and I are also thinking about taking this online. So if anyone wants that and thinks, actually, I could do with a piece of that, just let us know, because that will be the indication that we need in order to see whether or not we can take this as a model.
And the model is really to know that anything that we know intellectually, and some of this beautiful research-based work that you do, Anna, that we need to we need to embody it. It's very important that any parenting idea or concept or science that we have and evidence, how are we actually embodying that in our day-to-day life? That is what makes the difference. You can know it all, but yet still find yourself reactively kind of doing the same parenting that was done to you, even though you know it wasn't a good idea. Does that make sense? That it's actually something we need to practice, and we need to understand how it feels in the body?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and that was the second session, wasn't it? Because we recognised that when we do stuff in our body, it really supports how we feel, which is, every, CBT, in terms of thoughts, feelings, behaviour, and all of the connections between those three things. And recognising too that the parents in the room were trying really hard to strike a balance, but things were pretty stressful at times. And so the next week we brought back some ideas around what we do when we feel like we're going to lose it and we're moving into fight, flight, freeze response.
Yeah, and I think what we noticed is that as parents, most of us in the room we knew what we wanted, we knew what our best selves would do, but all of us were feeling so much stress that we weren't always able to do that in everyday, interactions with our children. And it's just that reminder, that real basic neuroscience of stress, of going, if I'm in a stress response in my body, my brain, isn't just not working. We actually just can't think clearly. We can't respond in those ways with integrity. So we actually need our cupcake moments, don't we, Anna? We need our moments of looking after our own nervous system. We need to just take a moment to breathe. We need to take a moment to go take a walk. It's actually essential, isn't it?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And what we noticed too was that people don't always recognise when they're moving into fight, flight, freeze. I think that was big talk, wasn't it, around the earthquakes here? But we thought that fight, flight, freeze was just when we got a really horrific fright. But we didn't think about it when we come to, wanting to yell at our children. That's a fight, flight, freeze response,
Absolutely. It absolutely is, isn't it?
Yeah, and so just kind of what we can do in order to look after ourselves in that moment and change the way that we're about to react. Through breathing and other, little tiny techniques that we can do, the five things I can see right now, 4 things I can hear right now, 3, just grounding ourselves as well.
Those sensory, coming to those sensory moments of what can I actually feel within my body? What can I hear?
I
those are
love
so
that you
important.
always bring everything back to the body. I mean, it's incredible that we have everything inside of us to be able to support us support us in hard moments. Yeah.
I do bring it back to the body a lot, Anna, because I feel I've actually come through, Western intellectual models. I've come through, higher education, and I feel that I was given really the culture that I grew up in was prioritizing intelligence, the brain intelligence.
Yeah.
And I really feel that it didn't necessarily do me a service as an overall well-being person to know things, but not to be able to feel them.
Yeah.
And I think that and that's why, again, I keep bringing things back to things like te whare tapawha, because there's so much wisdom that actually we need a somatic understanding. And that is actually wisdom and knowledge as well, and science.
Yeah.
It's really
and one of the
important.
things that I do in those moments where I've moved into fight, flight, freeze is what you taught me, which is step back, feel my feet on the floor. So I'm immediately moving into my body. Yeah, I know. Which
I'm
is
so happy. Yay.
Honestly, we don't. We do this for ourselves too, don't we?
We're literally stepping back and just going, where are my feet? I can feel the ground.
Yep.
And the other thing I think we noticed was that actually fight, flight or freeze, I think a few of us as parents are actually in that every day, all day. So therefore we can't realize when we really it revs up because we're kind of already in it. And I think that's really a real thing for a lot of parents. I think we're just getting by, and our nervous system isn't really built to be in fight, flight or freeze on that kind of ongoing basis, is it?
No, that's right. But it's hard to escape when we're just on the go all the time, and there's there's just lots going on. Yeah, absolutely. I think that we did 4 sessions of this, and the third one we looked at strengths, and I think that was really cool. That was drawing on the work of VIA strengths from Martin Seligman at Pennsylvania University, and we did that not because we wanted these wahine to be reminded of just keeping strong, but what we wanted instead was them being reminded that they have gorgeous strengths anyway.
You know what I think it was, Anna? I think it was also that in having acknowledged and really gone into the difficulties and the stress of parenting, I think we wanted to also remind ourselves this is true, and at the same time, this is also true. So I am struggling and I am really, finding today difficult, and I have creativity and I am grateful for this.
Yeah.
We can hold both of those things at the same time, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we get caught in I just have to keep going, and not reflecting on, who am I going to be in this? What can I bring to this? And lighting ourselves up with, with what we have available and our own gorgeousness, actually.
Yeah, and actually that's something where I think of what you've taught me, actually, where I think, you talked about when you're going into a situation that might be producing a bit of anxiety, a bit of worry, you're kind of going, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think, which one of my strengths am I going to dial up here?
Yeah.
Am I going to bring some humor into this? Am I going to bring some of my bravery? Am I going to bring some, whatever it is, bring it in. And I really love that, Anna, that it's actually a very mindful thing to do, because I keep on telling you're very mindful without necessarily purposefully knowing it as such. But we talk a lot of mindfulness about that beautiful Viktor Frankl quote about between stimulus and response, there is a gap, and it's that little bit of a gap in there that is our freedom to choose. And that little pause that we have between reacting suddenly to some kind of stimulus, that's where we can dial up our strengths. That's where we can go, how am I going to approach this? Really makes a difference in our lives.
Yeah, I really hope that people can see the combination of what we kind of actively taught while we were sitting on our yoga mats eating cupcakes and having, you know, kōrero with mums. We only had mums, which was beautiful. And then moving into what you're talking about, where we, you know, where we practice the mindfulness and the yoga poses, and it all makes sense in the context of what we know and what we can do. In that session, you had people flying on chairs.
Yes, we did. And I have photographic evidence of that. There is this beautiful thing in yoga that we talk about, that a pose or a yoga position that takes strength to do actually gives you strength, or a pose that takes courage to do, like a big back bend, actually also then produces that courage. So we were talking about kind of, we can find our resilience in these moments of challenge. So we just stood up on a chair. You know, you could, hey, at home you could try this. Please be careful, you know, be prudent, but also you could get up and just test your chair, see if it's nice and solid, and just stand on it. Stand up on your chair and have a different view. Because when was the last time that you did something that you physically felt was a little bit different? You know, like kids do this all the time. They climb to the top of, you know, slides and they jump off. And when was the last time, you know, you tried going upside down, or you just had a different perspective, and just even standing on the chair? But then I got them to do a warrior pose, like a little flying kind of Superman pose on the chair. So just standing on the chair with one foot. It was so fun, and there was
fun, and there was that curiosity around it. About can I do this? How does this feel? Which is not dissimilar to. I love that, you know. Chairs become chairs as adults, but as children, they are things to get higher on.
I know, and isn't it? And I just really would love it that as parents, we're not completely always squashing that out. You know, oh, sit still. Oh, you know, pay attention. Just. There are some such beautiful things, aren't there, that we can still do as adults.
And finally, our final session was all about controlling what we can control and letting go of what we can't, in order to acknowledge that sometimes what, you know, holds a lot of our energy is the stuff that actually we can't. We can care about, but we don't actually always have to be involved in and have used up all of that really sacred energy.
And for me, this is all about boundaries. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really only something I've recently kind of learned about in my mid-40s, to understand that, you know, to love people and to have relationships that are really meaningful, like with our children, we also need to be respecting each other's needs and not be quite so entrenched in each other that we can't just kind of also let go of the things that we have no control over. Like, I just love my children so much, but I also realize that I need to let go, like, of trying to make them feel happy all the time, for example.
Yeah.
It's not my job.
Yeah.
And my job is, you know, to really support them and be there for them. But it's okay if they have some bad days, and they will manage it, won't they?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because, you know, we do have a range of emotions for good reason, don't we? So, and, you know, sitting in happiness is completely unrealistic for the rest of our lives.
That's exactly it, Anna. A big part of mindfulness is acknowledging that life is both beautiful and that it is really difficult, and that is okay. And what we can control, letting go of what we can't control in life, is about letting go of perfection. It's letting go of the idea that we can do everything completely right. So the 3 top tips from today from Cupcakes and Yoga. Number 1, give yourself a break, right, Anna? Just give yourself a break.
Absolutely.
Super important. You know, Maybe that day you want to get up and do an hour yoga and be really awesome, but maybe you get on the mat and all you need is to sit down with a cup of tea and a cupcake, and that is okay. Don't judge yourself about that. Number 2 tip, hey, life is not perfect. Life sucks and life sings, as we like to say in mindfulness. So just notice it's all right that some days are going to go a little skew-iffy. It'll be all right. So that number 2 tip is just to know it is normal. If life sucks today, that's okay. Number 3 tip is we need a village. We need groups like this where we can get together and support each other in what is actually quite a difficult and incredibly important job. Parenting, you are not alone. Let's look after each other. What do you reckon, Anna?
Absolutely. Please let us know if Cupcakes and Yoga feels a little bit like you and you want to join us online for that. So we would love to hear from you. You can let us know by emailing me directly at anna@realparents.org. That would be really useful feedback for us. If you are in Rolleston, however, we will be continuing with Cupcakes and Yoga next term, and you can check out our Facebook page or Instagram in order to know those dates around that. I don't have them just yet. And then if you want to join us for any of our parenting programs, please also be in touch. We do have Parenting at Your Best coming at you every month. And again, email me directly in order to find out more details.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us today.
We hope you've learned that while parenting is challenging sometimes, that's totally normal. It's been fun having you with us. Keep being amazing. Bye!